Most people spend 40 years building wealth and then quietly lose control of it in 5 years before retirement. Not because of the market, not because of bad luck, but because of a handful of financial decisions they didn't even realize they were making. Here's what makes it so dangerous. Once you make these decisions incorrectly, unfortunately, there's no rewind button. The window to fix them is open now, but it closes the moment that you decide to retire. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the most important financial decisions you must get right before retirement and how to make sure you don't accidentally undermine the next 30 years of your life in retirement. A couple came to see me recently, both 62 years old, very solid savers with over $1.2 million put away. They thought they were ready. Within 10 minutes, we found three decisions they'd already made that unfortunately weren't the best overall for their situation. If they had continued on that path, they would have potentially run out of money, maybe in their 80s. Not because they didn't have enough money saved, but because the pieces of their plan simply were not connected together. That's exactly what we're trying to fix for them and perhaps for you today. So let's begin. Let's look at decision number one. Decision one is to decide when to turn on your income streams. Most people think retirement begins when they stop working. It really doesn't. Retirement begins when your income plan starts working for you. The first major mistake people make is turning on income sources too early or perhaps too late without coordination between them. Let's take Social Security for example. Are you planning to claim at 62? Will you wait till 67, which for most folks is full retirement age these days? Or are you planning to delay out as far as you can, which is age 70 right now? Or perhaps it's sometime in between all these ages. That single decision can swing your lifetime income by hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's the part that most people miss. It's not simply about maximizing the monthly check. It's about your tax situation, your spouse's survivor benefit, your other income sources, your realistic life expectancy, and how Social Security interacts with everything else in your plan. Most people optimize one variable in isolation, but retirement requires optimizing the entire system. Pull one lever without considering the others, and you might make a decision that looks smart now on the surface, but costs you significantly over time. So, decision two is understanding how you'll pay taxes. Not an if, but a how. And this one catch people off guard because you don't automatically retire and have a lower tax bracket. In fact, many retirees end up paying more in taxes than they did while they were working. Why? Because they followed conventional wisdom throughout their career of defer, 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 and now they've quietly built up what I call a tax time bomb in retirement. And these are IRA withdrawals that will be forced on them that are taxed as ordinary income. So now they have Social Security that can be partially taxable, they have capital gains which are taxable, and now they have required minimum distributions that arrive on a government set schedule whether you need the money or not, forcing taxable income whether it's convenient for you or not. So the real question isn't how much have you saved, but it's how much are you actually going to be able to keep. The retirees who handle this well don't just grow wealth, but they start to engineer these tax efficient decisions over decades to come. That means maybe strategic Roth conversions during lower income years. It could be timing withdrawals to stay within specific brackets of the tax code. It can be coordinating income sources so they don't stack on top of each other as much and push you into territory for taxes that you didn't plan for. One critical piece here is to understand that we cannot fix this once required minimum distributions begin. So that usually occurs in your 70s at this point. And at that point, your income is your income. You're going to have Social Security, you're going to have these RMDs, and this will be for you for the rest of your life as you withdraw based on your IRA account balances and the formula that's set by the government on how much you have to withdraw. So this is a pre-retirement decision that you have to make. And if you get it right, those savings over a 30-year retirement could be substantial, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference. So decision three is we need to understand how to calculate our income gap. Now, this might be the single most important concept in this entire video. So retirement isn't just about a single number. It's actually about a calculation of understanding a difference. The difference of what's coming in versus what's going out. And the gap between these two numbers is what your investments have to cover in retirement for every single month over the rest of your life. So here's how to calculate it. You can list every income source that you'll have in retirement This is likely Social Security. For some folks, it may be pensions. It can be any other consistent income streams outside of planning for portfolio growth. Then we should list out our expenses. This could be housing, healthcare, travel, lifestyle. And then ultimately, we want to subtract your income from your expenses. That's your income gap. Now take that gap and divide it by your total liquid assets. And that gives you a calculation that's really important. It's called your withdrawal rate. And generally speaking, you want that figure, that withdrawal rate calculation, to be about 4 to 5% or below, depending upon your timeline in retirement and your overall situation. If it's higher, you may be carrying a little bit more risk than you realize. And if it's lower, you may have more flexibility to spend than you think you do. So this one calculation connects everything. It tells you whether your plan actually would work, and not just in theory, but in real numbers against real expenses and real income. Brings us to decision number 4. So decision 4 is how much risk in your portfolio should you actually be taking? Most people approach this question kind of backwards. They ask, what return do I need? The better question likely in retirement is, what risk can I actually afford? Because once you're retired, losses hit differently. A 20% portfolio drop at 35 is very uncomfortable, but very recoverable. A 20% portfolio drop at 65 while making regular withdrawals could permanently alter your trajectory, depending upon your overall picture, of course. And this is called sequence of returns risk. Unfortunately, it's one of the most underappreciated threats to long-term retirement success, because when you're forced to sell assets at depressed prices to fund living expenses, those shares, those holdings are gone when the market recovery actually begins. So the math doesn't work out the same way it does during the accumulation years. So the real investment question in retirement isn't just stocks versus bonds. It's about, how do I structure income so I really don't have to sell at the wrong time? That could mean a bucket strategy, portfolio income that's layering with a strategic cash reserve. Maybe it's income-focused investments, more so dividends and things that produce more ongoing income for your portfolio, versus just market performance and near-term needs. The specific approach matters less than the principles behind it. Your investment strategy must serve your income plan, not the other way around. This brings us to decision number 5, looking at healthcare, which oftentimes is the expense that most people underestimate the most. It could be one of your larger expenses in retirement. It's not just Medicare, but it's also thinking about your supplemental plan coverage, prescription costs, out-of-pocket costs, and unfortunately, potentially, it could be long-term care costs that can be very difficult to predict. And these costs don't just hit evenly. They tend to spike in the later years of retirement, exactly when your portfolio could already be under pressure as you enter the later years of retirement. A plan that ignores this isn't conservative, it's being very incomplete. The goal isn't to react to healthcare costs when they're going to arrive, it's to build in a plan and to anticipate them, and build a plan that can absorb them without disrupting everything else. So this brings us to decision number 6. This is to understand who's in charge. This one makes people uncomfortable, though, unfortunately, but it may be the most important decision on this list. What happens if you become incapacitated? What if your spouse isn't deeply familiar with the financial details? What if something unexpected happens and no clear structure exists? Most people answer this question with, well, when it comes, we'll figure it out. That's really not a plan. We're building in a major liability here. Ultimately, you need to have really professionally, properly drafted estate planning documents, a clear financial structure that someone else could use to navigate without you, ideally a trusted advisor that understands the system that you have in place, and that this can be not just dependent upon you, but other than you, one person could be available and help that is very capable if these times occur. And because your retirement is also about protecting those who depend on you, we need to understand this is a significant decision to make, because it's not just about your retirement, it's about protecting those that depend on you. So here's what ties all 6 of these together. None of them are particularly complicated in isolation, but when they're not coordinated, when each decision is made independently without considering how it interacts with the other pieces, this is when plans can fall apart. Taxes affect income. Income affects investments. Investments affect your risk overall. Risk can affect your sustainability of your portfolio. Healthcare can affect all these items, and estate planning determines what happens to all of it now and later. Most people are trying to solve a connected problem with really disconnected advice. And that's why so many people who did everything right during accumulation still feel uncertain when their retirement arrives and they begin withdrawing from your portfolio. So before you retire, let's get clear on these 5 key questions. Number 1, what is my income gap and withdrawal rate? Number 2, how do I minimize taxes not just this year, but over the next 30 years? Number 3, how do I structure investments so I'm not forced to sell at the wrong time in retirement? Number 4, how do I plan for healthcare costs that will increase as retirement goes on? And number 5, determining now who's in charge of this if I'm not available to be. If you can answer those 5 key questions clearly with actual numbers and plans beside them and behind each one, fortunately, you're not guessing anymore. You are truly in control. And this is exactly what we build for our clients at Cornerstone Wealth Planning. We call it an integrated retirement plan that connects all of these decisions into one clear strategy. So nothing falls through the cracks, nothing works against everything else. And if you want our help mapping this out for your specific situation, click the link in the description to schedule a call. Or if you're not quite ready for that conversation yet, watch the free video in the description where I break down exactly how we approach this step by step. Because retirement shouldn't feel uncertain, it should feel clear, confident, and fully under control. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.